price tags outside of doing an oil change, which uses like a gallon of oil. Woo. To note, that's the only other interesting part about this, is the oil filter and where it drains, and that it uses a filter screen. So that's the other thing I'd recommend, is you get one of the cute little sticky magnets and you slap it on the drain plug, because these aren't really engineered to last, but they probably will. I haven't killed it yet, and I run the crap out of it every time I drive it. So if you have any questions about it, they are pretty interesting. They're always something different. They do have some other interesting features. They've got a choke, got a horn button, turn signals, in there a press to cancel, high beam, low beam, electric start. You also have a kickstart option. The ignition switch is interesting. They do not have a kill switch on the bike, which is really weird. But they do have a lock, so you can fork lock. They've got your stop. They've got your start/run position. And that's pretty much it. You also have your left indicator, right indicator, neutral indicator, your high beam indicator, and like I said before, you have your gear speed indicator. Now, as far as long-term longevity of ownership thoughts, I thought it would be a really neat idea to replace that with a parallel twin, like 200cc engine. And then you change out your gear ratio and stuff, and then you get rid of the clamp-on handlebars because those are garbage. You get rid of those, and you extend all the controls, and you end up with a pretty good bike. But the frame is the other question. And I don't think the frame, since it's built this way, ideally, if you move up on the horsepower side with a bigger engine, you would definitely want a bigger rear end tire to compensate for all of that. But aside from that, these things vibrate horrendously. You'll end up with numb ass and hands at the end of the day. And the one thing I would really look into is figuring out how to grommet your front handlebars and how to grommet your seat mount and your foot pegs. Because all this stuff has horrendous harmonics. The mirrors vibrate terribly. It is a really cheap crap bike. And the stock mirrors sucked, so those are no longer on this, because those are absolutely horrendous. But aside from that, it's been an interesting almost a decade of owning one of these. There's something to be said for the cheap economy bike. This was my commuter motorcycle when I was in college. This is how you afford to drive everywhere all the time on a budget. Because this thing sips gas and ended up getting like 80 mile to 90 mile per gallon. Which it's hard to do. It's hard to beat that. Aside from needing to stop all the time to fill up the gas tank, all of that whole gallon, that's sort of what you end up with. But some of the other points of concern and things to note. The rear axle does not feature a castle nut. The exhaust, the muffler on this screws on, so it has screws that fed up from the back side of this flange that went to the muffler. That didn't ever work out well, even with lock washers and stuff. Still always works loose because the bike vibrates too much. The other thing to note, taillights burn out on this all the time. If you are in an area that's heavily patrolled, always carry spare bulbs and a screwdriver because you will need them. Because taillight always seem to burn out at the worst possible time. What else was on here of interest? Most of the other stuff never really had a problem with staying bolted on. The front fairing was a bit garbage because this front fairing for the light housing and stuff essentially is falling apart and needs replaced. I was probably going to convert it over to a standard configuration of a regular bulb and turn signals that actually come off the side. And the chain guard, got rid of that. Still have it. It's garbage. All the stuff on here was pretty much plastic garbage. It does have a seat lock, which is interesting. Let me see something here. Give you an idea of what some of this stuff looks like. So you dick with the seat lock, it opens up, and then you're able to fold up your seat. The seat bolts on to the hinge right down here. And then here you've got a gas tank with your level indicator. And you've got your filler cap, your rear reservoir for your brakes. And then is your seat release mechanism, which is interesting. And then we've got your fuses. And hey, look, I still have my sheared off bolt for the top engine mount. It's always nice. Big cute little thing. I'd recommend to carry a light bulb and whatever bits you need to take off and remove the light bulb. And if you accomplish all of those things, this can be pretty good. And then you can also build a rear bracket to put on your seat. And you can also put bags on this. And I actually rode with bags for a really long time. And I just sort of had them drooped over the sides. And they actually worked out pretty good. And they just sort of rode on the rear passenger pegs. Not that I'd recommend anybody drive one of these with a passenger. It doesn't really have the guts to do that type of thing. It's a very tiny motorcycle. But yeah, that's Hybird. The Super Hybird 125. I think it's a QH or HQ 125 something. Circa 2008, 2007. That's what they look like. An interesting bike built after the Honda Super Cub, but updated and modernized. Disc brakes, ABS, shift position indicators, turn signal indicators, some high-tech stuff. But the biggest detractor of this bike is definitely the riding position. That's the one thing that really does need fixed on the bike, because it is a sport riding position. Because it's really hard to not be in a sport riding position when it's set up and configured like that, which sucks. But that's it for show and tell of the Hybird. The Hybridosphere. Made in Guangzhou Hybrid Motorcycle Industry Limited something, most of it's rubbed off. Made in China. Emissions placard, slow idle, 1200 RPMs, use 5W50. $89 octane or higher. Oh boy. Just looking to see if there's any more awesome information on this. Tire sizes, da-da-da-da-da. That's about it. We'll call it a day at that. Thanks for watching. I'd think twice about a Chinese bike. Hard to get parts for.